Rightio guys, well it's only taken, 3 months, but we finally have the next episode of Ozlander Reviews, albeit only part 1. However, I promise the next part will be up at most within a month, but I'm trying to give myself a deadline of 2 weeks, so let's work with the 2-week mark, it'll be up by then. But without any other bullshit, let's just get right into it. Here's the review. We open the film with some okay water effects, nothing mind-blowing, before panning across to the titular Antonio Grazza. We get some beautiful Italian singing, just set against the cutest pink flowing text. This was actually one of the first things that made this movie stand out to me the first time I saw it. If you have no idea what's coming, which I did not, this intro makes you feel like you're settling in for some sappy rom-com on an ocean cruise. We get our first introduction to Katie, played by Emily Browning in one of her earlier appearances, who is bored and alone. Fortunately, the captain of this love boat is a sweetheart, and he asks her to dance. We get some shots of them dancing, and the first real smile from Katie since the movie began. So sweet, right? Then we cut to a lone hand pushing a lever. The music and colour tones both immediately shift, but maintaining the Italian singing in the background, which actually makes it more eerie, if you ask me, and considering you're watching my review, you kinda did. The camera pans along the wire, revealing that the other end is stretched taut at waist height across the dance floor. Yeah, I think everyone's figuring out this ain't a love story by now. The wire increases its speed before inevitably slicing across the dance floor. Everyone besides Katie is bisected, because the captain leans down to protect her. And while I can't show too much here because it is quite graphic, some of the reactions are downright hilarious. Like there's one lady who actually starts trying to pull herself back together. Unfortunately for the captain though, for his kindness, he gets 3 inches of skull shaved off the old neck hole. We get a scream from Katie that could shatter glass, as the camera shifts to the exterior of the ship and then drops below the waves. Cut to the present, and we meet the protagonists of the film, the salvage crew of the Arctic Warrior, Epps, Greer, Munda, Dodge, Santos, and Murphy, who some of you may recognise as not Kaiser Soze. They narrowly prevent an abandoned ship from sinking and tow it back to port. While celebrating their latest payday, they are approached by Jack Ferryman, played by Dexter's Quinn, Desmond Harrington, who claims to be an Arctic weather patrol pilot who came across a seemingly abandoned ship lost in international waters. Despite some weirdly hostile remarks from the crew...
Congratulations, you found a boat in the middle of the ocean, of all places.
I mean, come on guys, this guy is bringing you work, like, what's the deal here? They come to an agreement. Jack will accompany them, and he will get 10% of whatever the ship is worth. The crew head out, but before long, Santos starts to notice something is off with the radar. He calls Murphy up to the bridge. Initially skeptical that the radar is glitching, Murphy believes him when the shape again appears on the radar. Murphy sends Dodge up to the bow light and starts trying to raise anyone on the radio. The heavy storm and darkness, however, prevents Santos or anyone else from seeing the massive boat until they almost hurtle into it. Santos slams on the brakes, but the lurch sends Dodge flying over the edge. He manages to get a grip and narrowly avoids his leg being crushed against the ship's hull. The crew gather and Murphy sees that it is the Antonio Grazza. He is the only one that recognises it, and he starts to explain to the rest of the crew that she vanished 40 years prior, with no distress signals of any kind. He then continues on to say that under maritime salvaging law, she belongs to them. The crew board the ship, leaving Greer and Jack on the Warrior. Murphy warns them to watch their step as they have no idea what kind of shape the ship is going to be in, and they note that all the lifeboats and life preservers are gone, despite no survivors having ever turned up. They venture deeper into the ship, their attention being drawn to an old clock they hear in the distance. We get a pretty predictable jump scare as Munda reaches for the clock. And then as they walk off, a cooler effect with the toy Katie had at the start of the film. As they continue to move deeper into the ship, Greer can no longer raise them on the radio. Suddenly, the floor drops out from beneath Munda and he almost falls to his death. While trying to drag him back up, Epps notices Katie eyeballing her.
Oh, we're gonna f***ing die.
The crew make their way to the bridge, searching for any clues as to what may have happened to the Grazza. Dodge comes across a watch and points it out to Munda that it is digital. They didn't have digital watches in 1962. Murphy interjects that they mustn't be the first ones to have boarded the Grazza, but it doesn't change their claim. They return to the Warrior, and Murphy tells the story of the Mary Celeste, a ship that had been found adrift, her crew missing, and no signs of distress or struggle, just like the Grazza. Which is actually a true story. I thought that was a nice touch. Dodge is sceptical, but Murphy is unperturbed. He states that maritime history is full of Mary Celestes. They discuss potential options, finally settling on waiting for Santos to overhaul their engines so they can tug the Grazza back to shore. Epps heads outside and starts thinking about what she saw on the boat, but Jack comes out and offers her a jacket and a ciggy. He asks her what's wrong, noting that she seemed quiet since coming back. She tells him what she saw, and they discuss times that Jack thought he saw strange things when he was flying for hours on end. They part, and we get another water dissolve effect cut to morning. We join Jack for his morning cuppa before he gets a startle from Epps surfacing. They inform him the ship is sinking. Murphy works out that the Graza is caught in a current loop and had recently been smashed against a nearby island of rocks. They have 3 days to fix it, or she sinks. Greer wants to call in their location, but Murphy advises against it. They load up their supplies onto the Graza and start to explore, working out how to get to the damaged areas. Epps finds her way to what was the swimming pool and notices that there are ammo casings and bullet holes in the pool. She gets in to have a closer look to confirm her suspicions, but as she climbs back up the ladder to get out, Katie appears in front of her. The shock causes Epps to fall back down and knock herself out. Dodge and Munda reach the engine room, where we get this ripper of a comment from Dodge.
We're gonna have to dive to get to that tear.
No shit, mate. It's an ocean liner with a gaping hole in it. Did you expect the water to be waist high? He tries to reach Epps on the radio, and we cut back to her starting to wake up in the pool. She calls out, but Jack appears instead and helps her out. As he does so, blood begins to pour out of one of the bullet holes. Cut to Murphy checking out the cap's quarters. He finds an open bottle of hooch and a poured glass, both strangely immaculate. He goes in to take a drink, but sees the captain's reflection in the mirror. He drops the drink and leaves, and we see the captain watch him leave with a slight smile. On the surface, it does just seem like a standard jump scare, but at no point in the movie is the captain insinuated to be any sort of malevolent spirit. In fact, later on, he actually helps. And Murphy is heavily implied to be a recovering alcoholic, so I don't know, I kind of feel like he was trying to stop him from having the drink, like he tried to scare him away, and that's why he was sort of smiling a little bit. So, like, yeah, good boy, you didn't drink. So, yeah, I don't know, that's my takeaway on that little moment. I mean, yeah, he could have just been protecting his stash, but I don't know. I'd like to think he was trying to be nice and stop him from relapsing. Back to the bloodbath, and blood is now spreading across the floor. More and more bullet holes start gushing blood as Epps and Jack both obliviously walk away, discussing the casings, and the camera drops into the blood, revealing floating bodies and confirming Epps' worst-case scenario, that there were people in there. Epps and Jack make their way to Central Laundry and, with difficulty, open a sealed door. Probably should have left it shut though, because a metric fuck-ton of putrid water and rotting corpses pour out. I'm going to assume that didn't smell too great. In the ensuing panic, they don't notice that the steel door they entered through closes and bolts itself. They do, however, notice it when they try to go back the way they came, and they can't get it open. So they have no choice but to press forward through the corpse chute. We finally get to see our man Greer again, who really hasn't had any solo screen time yet. About time he got some. He notices a lit cigarette on the piano with red lipstick, and he wonders aloud when Epps started wearing lipstick.
When did you start wearing lipstick, Epps?
He notices a photo on the piano of the Italian singer from the beginning, Francesca. As he walks off, however, he doesn't notice Francesca sitting nearby, smoking a cigarette and watching him closely. God damn, is that all the screen time he gets? We cut to a static shot of two doors opening themselves and Epps' voice coming towards them. The two hurry down the corridor, but Jack gets sidetracked by the car in the room. Epps follows him and gets pretty pissed off that he's wasting time.
We have to get out of here now. Do you understand me? Now.
However, she then notices something is moving in the room behind them. They move closer and they notice wooden boxes stacked in the room. Epps kicks one open, revealing a multitude of huge rats. She freaks out as the rats scamper, but Jack then begins laughing and indicating that the box is full of gold bars. They find Murphy, but not before Dodge and Munda lure them to the galley to scare them, believing that Francesca's voice on the radio earlier was Epps messing with them. She's not really in the mood for jokes, though, and angrily informs them of what they found.
Want to hear something funnier? We just found a bunch of dead guys floating in the laundry room. And this, in the cargo hold.
The crew all gather in the cargo hold, and the locked boxes are pried open as Jack laughs hysterically, and I just love Desmond Harrington, man. This boy is such a lad. The crew quickly agree to leave the Graza and take the gold. So they immediately go to work loading up the bullion, but in his excitement, Santos doesn't notice the propane gas turning itself on. Santos tells Greer to start the boat with a rather unfortunate choice of words. Fire it up! Katie tries to warn Epps, but is tackled out of the way by an unseen entity. Santos smells the gas seconds too late, and the engine room blows, along with the warrior. Epps dives overboard and finds Greer, but Santos is barbecue at this point. Tempers run hot as the crew try to work out what happened, with Dodge getting quite aggressive with Jack. Greer pulls him off, and everyone calms down. Epps goes to find Murphy on the deck and tries to talk to him, but Santos's death has hit him pretty hard as he feels personally responsible for his crew, as he brought them there, and he just walks off wordlessly.